Hi there, I'm Mary Susie from Bead Me a Story. Thanks so much for joining me today for the Beaded Snowflake Ornament 2024. I'm really excited about this year's ornament. It's very similar to the very first one that I did, and this is that. So you can see it's very similar in size. These are gonna look great together, just because every snowflake is different. So you can keep putting different kinds on your tree. But this is a little bit on the smaller side. So this was last year's snowflake. And you can see I really extended that out and made it bigger. So this one's really fun too. This one will be available this year. But let me kind of show you around the outside. So you can see that you can pinch these up or push them down, but this is truly three-dimensional in that it has beads in here and on the outside, but the ones on the outside you'll kind of only see if you're seeing the snowflake from the side, and it's going to twinkle off the lights on your tree like crazy. But this is a three-dimensional form, much like this one was. This first one has a base of Byzantine. The one I did for this year has more of a Japanese base, but it's kind of a unique take on creating this three-dimensional. And then this is of course based on a dodecahedron, much like this first one was. Whereas this one, I formed the center more like a lentil. So all different kinds of snowflakes come in from Bead Me a Story every year. I'm so glad you decided to give this a try. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so to start this snowflake, the first thing I want you to know is everything we're doing is going to be a triangle. Okay, so you can see I've got 3 pairs of O-rings here and I've got 3 jump rings. So the first thing we're going to do is just start linking these together. So I've got 1 jump ring and I'm going to pick up 4 of the O-rings. So I'm just forming a 2 by 1 by 2 chain here. This is just the start of it. Okay, so that's 2 by 1 by 2. Now we're going to take our second jump ring. We're going to pass it through 2 of these O-rings. And then pick up 2 more O-rings. Okay, and then we'll close our jump ring. All right, and now what we'll do is we'll just bend this, okay, to form a triangle. See that? And then we're gonna use this jump ring to join these 2 pairs together. Okay, and once we finish this first triangle, then we're gonna make a second triangle by working off of this first triangle. And I'll show you where we're gonna pass through before I pull out the materials to do this. So if you look at a pair of these O-rings and you split them in half, see how you can see 2 jump rings down in here? We're gonna be passing under each of these. And of course there's 3 of them because we have 3 pairs of O-rings. So we will be doing that part next. Now, when we do this, the first one I'm gonna do, now again, so we had 2, 4, 6 O-rings in this first grouping. And when we do this second grouping, we're also gonna have 6 O-rings being used. And when we do this one, we're gonna start to add some beads. So I'm gonna show you where we're gonna add those and where we're not going to add them, okay? So we want to add a bead here, and we want to add a bead here. But we're not going to add a bead to this first one that's closest to me, okay? And I'll show you why. So here is a finished point of the snowflake. And this part that I'm referring to would be right here. And this is going to end up on the inside of the snowflake, so it just doesn't need a bead. And then the other two you're seeing would be this bead here and this bead here. So I'm sure you can imagine in the next row we do, we're going to add 3 beads. But those are going to go into different places too. So I'll leave this here so you can see it on the screen. But I'm going to take my first jump ring. And like I said before, we're going to split between these 2 O-rings here, and I want to pass under both of these jump rings that link these rows together. Okay. Now I could have picked up my O-rings first before I passed through here. I just wanted to do it this way so that you could see it better. So I'm just going to put an O-ring on either side, which is basically how these are going to lay. We're going to lay them out flat. So they are going to end up flattening out to either side when we use the piece. Okay, so that is our one without any beads. Now we want to come up here and up here. So let me grab a jump ring over here, and I'm going to pick up an O-ring, a bead, and an O-ring. Okay, and by doing that, by picking up in that order, then pretty much anywhere I go through this is going to be fine, because these are going to be in the right location. Sometimes I got to turn it around like this because one of the jump rings will end up sitting higher than the other ones, and it'll just be easier to kind of get through there this way. But you can see that this is fairly simple. I know this is all really small materials, and if you're not used to working with small materials, this can be challenging, but you know, you can do it. This is not, you know, this is not a super challenging pattern, so I think you'll be okay. Okay, and then once again, I'm gonna pick up the O-ring and the seed bead, and then the O-ring. Okay. Unfortunately, in this project, we're just using 3 materials. Everything ended up working and being the same size, so that makes this really nice and really easy to work with. Okay, pass that through there, and might need to feed that through a little bit more. Okay, and there are our 3 sides. So here is our first one that we did. Here's just our two O-rings, no bead, and then the 2 O-rings with a bead in between, and up here too. Okay, so then keep in mind that it actually goes like this. So our triangle almost looks upside down at this point. So it can be a little bit tricky as you're watching this next step as we go around with the 3 rings. So you're gonna end up with a jump ring here and here, and then this one is gonna bring it up to the point at the top. And so this one at the top is going to have the bead in the middle. Okay, so this one will be just like those ones we just did. And then these 2 on the side, these are going to be a little bit different. And I actually had to make one of these before I kind of figured this out and how these are going to sit. But I say the more beads we can have, the better. So I love how this worked out. So this is going to end up being that we'll have 2 O-rings and then the bead on top. Okay, so that is what you're seeing right here. See how we've got the 2 O-rings and then the bead sits above them. Okay, and that's what we're going for here. So let me do the 2 side ones first, and then I'll do the one where it's in the center, because it might be easiest to keep track of where I'm at that way, because as you flatten these rings out, because you see they're kind of pointing up and out right now, but as we flatten these out and go through them, you can see I'm going through the one that's on the right side of the bottom, and then the one that's on the lower side of the top right formation that we just did. So we're just folding those O-rings out so that they can be connected in between them. Oops, and did I forget my bead? How could y'all let me forget my bead? I get talking and you know how that works out. Okay, so when I do this, seeing that the bead is up here, had I picked up the bead first, I could have gone in the opposite direction. But because I picked up my bead last, I'm gonna have to go from up here to down through here, and that's gonna position the bead in the right location. And had I picked up the bead first and then the two O-rings, then I'd go through this one and then this one, and it should be in the right location. So just keep in mind, I flipped this over because I had to go through in a specific direction. And you'll be able to tell right away if it's in the right spot. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so see how this mimics this right here? All right, and then we're gonna come, I think I'm gonna flip this over, okay? So I can reach this next side right here and here. But see how it can get, it already can get confusing as to where you're at. And this time I'll pick up the bead first, because I missed my bead last time. And then the two O-rings, that way I can go from the bottom to the top, or I'll be moving away from myself. Okay, so through this first O-ring, and through the second. Okay, this is always the trickiest part, you know, when you're passing through a whole bunch of O-rings, you want to really pick up these pliers fast so that everything doesn't slide back off while you're trying to pick up your left hand pliers or your non-dominant hand pliers. Okay, and now that I've got that second one on, you can see how this mimics this. We've got the two beads on the sides and the two beads on the sides. So now we'll be joining these two O-rings up here. Okay, and this is gonna come up to a point. So this is where we want an O-ring, a bead, and an O-ring, okay? And, oh, I almost lost my jump ring there for doing this. Okay, O-ring, bead, and O-ring. Okay, and we're almost done with our first point. As soon as we do this, we have our first point made in the snowflake. But really I have two, you know, I have this other one sitting over here, and we're gonna need 6. Okay, so we're gonna do this 6 times. And these should all look just alike. You might need to, you know, pull them out, give them a little yank here and there, but you can see here's 2 of them that I've got ready. So I need 4 more made up. And then once we have all 6, I'm gonna pause the video here and I'll come back and show you how to link everything together and make this a 3-dimensional snowflake. Okay, so now I have all 6 of my pieces ready to go. And I just want to point out that you can see how the part that's towards the inside, there's no bead here. And that's how you can always tell which parts are the inside and which parts are the outside. So that is going to go inward, but the way I have this laying, this is actually going to be attached like this. So we're going to link these together like this. So you can see we have a pair of rings here and a pair of rings here. We're gonna go all the way around in a circle, and then we're gonna have to flip it over and attach these double pairs on the other side too. So I'll just show you with one that I have finished. You see I have 2 O-rings laying in the middle of the circle. So each of these 6 jump rings are where these pieces are going to connect to this centerpiece, and each one's going to have a bead on it, okay? And then this outer circle is where we're going to attach from here to here, and this is also going to have a bead on it, but only on the outside, okay? So obviously we don't need it on the inside of a spherical object because that would be pointless. So I'll just show it to you here so you can see how there's 1 center ring and there's 6 jump rings with beads that are radiating out from that center ring. And then also right here, here, you can see that I've linked each of these groupings together with a jump ring and a bead, okay? And then if you flip it over, and I'll just show you, so this is 3-dimensional, okay? So you can see that the same thing's happening on the opposite side, that we've got our little circle in the center on this side too. But each of these rings that you see in this circle belong to each of these spokes that are part of the snowflake, okay? And then the last part we'll do is the beads that are back here that are in between the rows. And I really thought that really added something to this one. I'm really happy with how it came out. And of course, you know, I've got the silver line beads going on in this one. These are silver line light sapphire, so it's a really pale blue. It's beautiful. And then this one I used the seafoam metallic rings, and they're also really lovely. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to take one of the center rings, and actually let me just push my snowflake where you can still see it, but I need to be able to reach into the bead bin because, like I said, each of these is going to have a bead on it. And then you just want to make sure, see how I'm making sure that the part without the bead is towards the inside. So I'm going to go down through these 2 O-rings. Okay, and then I'm going to pick up these 2 center ones. So every single one of these snowflake points that I made is going to get connected to the center ring in the same way. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and connect 2. So you can see here that I picked up that center pair of rings at this point. So now I just need to keep track of where that is. Okay. All right. So, and you can see the 2 pairs here. So we know that we're going to go from here, from this center ring, out to another one of these. And you just, if you lay these on top of each other, you can see that you're on the correct side. See the side without the bead right here. So just line everything up with the last one that you did and you will be just fine. Okay. And there's our second one. Okay, now we're not going to attach a third one until we've linked these 2 together. So we know that these are our center rings, okay, because you can see the 3 pairs right here. And so this is going to go like this. So I need to attach this pair of O-rings to this pair of O-rings using a jump ring and a bead. And I'm just picking up whatever, so don't pay attention to which row I'm pulling from out here. I'm just grabbing jump rings. Okay, so all right, see, I pulled it apart, But see how we're gonna do the exact same thing on the other side later on, okay? So I'm gonna kind of fold this so that this pair is on its own. And I'm gonna go down through the end pair from my first spoke and come back up through this pair that belonged to the second spoke. Okay. And I close. All right, so if I pull this around, just so you can see this here. So what you're really seeing is two beads here and one bead right here. And that's what's happening when you look at this one. Okay, so we're just gonna keep going around in the same way. Now, if you prefer to, you can do the outside connection first. So on your next one, if you want to come back here to your pair first, go down through here. And then if you remember, we're just gonna lay this on top, making sure it's all facing the same direction. Let me feed my jump ring up. Okay. And then I'm gonna pass up through these two O-rings that are on the end. Okay, and then we'll close that. So that's our third one. Now that I've attached that third one, I'm gonna go ahead and attach that pair that I'm working with to the center pair of rings. Okay, so 6 connections into that center pair. So if I want, I can go down through the center pair or I can go through the outside pair. It doesn't really matter which one. Just want to make sure ultimately that my bead ends up on the correct side of the work, on the outside of the work. Okay. So you can see now I've got 1, 2, 3 of these, and I've got 2 of these connections. So I'm gonna go ahead and connect one more, and then I'll probably pause the video and finish this side so you can see it, and then we'll flip it over and turn it to the other side so you can just start to see how those are connected as well. Okay, so I'm gonna pick up my bead. I'm gonna do this the same way I just did. So I'm gonna take the pair of the ones I was just connecting. Okay, and I'm gonna pick up a new piece. So see how I can, lay my piece on top of the one I just did to make sure everything's going in the right direction. And I know that because I'm looking at where there is not a bead. Okay, I'm gonna pass through this new pair of O-rings that are on the tip and close it. All right, and then I'm gonna connect this pair of rings that I just joined to the center rings. So that'll be 4 connections. This time I went through the outside pair, and then I'm going through the inside pair of O-rings next. It doesn't matter which direction, whatever you're most comfortable with. Okay. And Okay, so I'm gonna pause just so I can keep going. I don't want this video to get too long on you. I'm gonna go ahead and connect the next two, and then we'll start on the other side. Okay, so before I flip this over, I just wanted to show you this last connection. So when I connect the very last one, I go ahead and connect it to the center. So you can see all these 6 beads on the jump rings that are connecting into the center rings here, okay? But I just wanted to remind you that we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and when we get to our 6th one, we have to connect the 6th one to the first one that we applied, okay? And that just takes 1 jump ring and 1 ring to do that, so no big deal. It's really not any different than the other ones, but I just wanted to make a point of showing you that. I always like to show you the rows that are not like the other rows. Okay, so I went down through there and back up through here. So the same thing, when we get to the other side, when we get, you know, all 6 connected, we need to make sure that there's 6 jump rings with beads in between each of these. And you can, so now you can see our center dome that's in this. Okay, and now let's flip this over. Okay, and you can see that we have the exact same pieces on this back side. So, you know, it's hard to envision at this point what all happens in this, but it's just the same thing as we did on the other side. The only difference is that it's all already interconnected, so you don't have to bring in new ones. They're already there for you. I'm just bringing in 2 O-rings for my center. And I mean, if you want, you can go from each of these into the center first and then do the beading around the outside if you want to. I need some more jump rings here too. Okay, so I'm going to take, and if you want to preload your beads onto your jump rings, you're welcome to do that too. Okay, so let me pick up the 2 that are going to belong to the center. And I can connect to any one of these that I want to. So you can see each of them has a pair of O-rings sticking out on this side. So I'm just going to go for it, pick whichever one I want to start with. And sometimes, you know, I just didn't give myself a little bit of room. I need a little bit more room on this. You know, you can see how much of the jump ring comes back out because you have to be able to grab it with your other pliers on the other hand. So, you know, just make sure you have enough to grab onto. Okay, so that's our center pair. So let me go ahead and attach the second spoke of my snowflake. And I'm going to attach that also through this center pair. Okay, so you can see it's all right here. This is exactly the same as the side we just did. It's just that they're all there and ready to go for you. Okay, and I'm gonna just push that pair into the center. And then of course you can see right here, we're gonna need to do these connections around the outside too. So I'm gonna do 1 more. And I will just say, when you get to the very end, I mean, it does get a little bit tighter with the connections. You know, it's just harder to get in there. But I mean, this is rubber, like it's flexible. You can move your pieces however you need them to be in order to get your jump ring with your bead through the path you need it to go. I mean, you can squish it, you can moosh it, whatever, you know, whatever you need to do to make sure that you'll be able to grab the jump rings with your pliers. And then of course I'll just mention, you know, you never want to grab the rubber with your pliers, and you don't want to get it pinched in between the jump ring either as you're closing it. So you just want to be really careful of that, because you can tear your O-rings, and then you would need to take that part out and replace it. So just keep that in mind. Okay, and then I'm gonna grab, here's my next spoke. You know, so you get the gist at this point. But this is a really fun project. It's gonna turn out really neat. And these make great Christmas gifts. You know, snowflakes are just representative of winter. So, you know, it's a safe gift for pretty much everybody during the holidays. And that's why I really love the snowflakes. I think they're really lovely, and they can just add to decor in so many different ways. And then, you know, just to point out, you know, my snowflake ornaments, they come in all sorts of different sizes. So you can make big ones and small ones, and beaded ones and not beaded ones, and there's lots and lots and lots to choose from. So, okay. All right, so I'm gonna end it here. Oops. Because I'm losing my light. It's actually daytime here. I'm sorry if there's a little extra shadow in this video. It is a stormy day here today. I think we're getting ready for a downpour, but let me bring this in just so you can see how this this is going to finish up. Okay, so I'm gonna pause it here. I'm gonna finish this side, and then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna show you how to put these beads in between so you get that nice layer of beading around the inside. Okay, so for this final step, we're going to need 6 jump rings and then 12 more beads to go onto here. And I've gone ahead and done a couple of these so you can see where these are going to be located. So I'm going to take this jump ring, and it's going to pass through these 2 O-rings that are in between. So if you look at this, let me pull my snowflake points to the side. You see how we have a little triangle here, and the point of the triangle is down, and then over here. So we're attaching to this O-ring that sits at the bottom of this triangle. We're going to attach these 2 O-rings together. So here, I'll tilt that so you can see the triangle a little bit better, and you see it's mimicked over on this side too. So we're going to be connecting these 2 O-rings that are down at the bottom here. And what you want to do is go ahead and move my beads over to my left side. Pick up 2 seed beads. And I want to grab my jump ring as high as possible where I'm still going to be able to close it. And here's the one we had spread apart. So you see, you can kind of just move these parts off to the sides. And you want to go down through the first one and come back up through the next one. And then close the jump ring. So this is going to create that little line that goes around and on the inside. Then you can just straighten back up your point. Okay, and then we'll just keep doing this all the way around. I'll show you the finished one again so you can see these little in between that are going to sparkle too. Okay, so just to show you the 3D, you can see we have the beads up at the points, we have the beads all in the inside, we have the beads going along each of the legs of the snowflake, and then we have these ones that we're doing right now inside. Okay, and then that is going to be it. You will have a finished snowflake. So I hope you enjoyed this project. I hope you'll want to make lots of these during the winter season this year. And I hope you'll give some of our other snowflakes a try. Try and do at least one per year. So I got lucky and came up with this one early. But, you know, start getting ready for the holidays. It's never too early. We're always pushed for time at the end of the season. So Hopefully this will give you a nice head start. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.